Imagine if that head trash was not there. Who would you be? What if I told you those fears were no longer a problem? What would you do? I'm Stephanie Costello, a mom of 3, wife, and avid mountaineer. Beyond all of these, I am very much like you, an average person trying to navigate this thing we call life. My goal with this podcast is to bring to light the truth about what intimacy really is. You may smile, feel called out, or learn something new. Either way, you will learn you are in control. This episode is brought to you by Safety in Freedom. Are you struggling to find safety in the freedom you create? Or maybe you're struggling to own your power, embrace who you are, and break free from those toxic patterns? Well, let's help you solve this problem today. Let's figure out what is really happening in your relationships with yourself and others. You can do that for free today at safetyinfreedom.com/call. That is safetyinfreedom.com/call. In addition, if you are looking for support with what we've been talking about in today's episode, I want to encourage you to get our free tools to help you navigate your freedom. You can go now to safetyinfreedom.com to get those resources. If you'd like access to the special resources and all the show notes for this special episode, make sure to visit theintimacytruths.com. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to you Dr. Debbie Silber, who is the founder of the PBT, Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute, and is a holistic psychologist. She is a 2-time #1 international best-selling author of The Unshakable Woman and From Hardened to Healed, The Effortless Path to Release Resistance, Get Unstuck, and Create a Life You Love. Her recent PhD study on how we experience betrayal made 3 groundbreaking discoveries that changes how long it takes to heal. In addition to being on Fox, CBS, The Dr. Oz Show, TEDx twice, and more, she's an award-winning speaker and coach dedicated to helping people move past their betrayals as well as any other blocks preventing them from the health, work, relationships, confidence, and happiness they want. All right. Welcome back to the Intimacy Truths podcast, where we have Dr. Debbie Silber here with us to talk about post-betrayal transformation. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. So let us know, where does your journey start with betrayal?
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody who says, I think I want to study betrayal. No, it doesn't work like that. You study betrayal because you have to. It's actually my 30th year in business. And as life would morph and change, so would business. So I started in health and then mindset and then personal development. And then I had a really painful betrayal from my family. Thought I did everything I needed to do to heal. A couple of years later, it happened again. This time it was my husband. Shocked, blindsided, devastated. Anybody who's been through it, you know how it feels.
I do.
So I looked, I got him out of the house, and then I looked at the 2 experiences and I was like, okay, well, what's similar to these 2? Of course, me, but what else? And I realized, boundaries were always getting crossed. I never took my own needs seriously. And I knew something big had to shift and had to change. So here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, thriving business. I was 50 and I'm like, I'm going back for a PhD. And it was in transpersonal psychology, the psychology of transformation and human potential, because I was changing so much. I didn't quite understand it. He was too, on his own, wasn't ready to look at that. And then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal? And what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive? That study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my work, my family, my life.
Thank you for sharing that. And so the lie, cheat, and deceive, tell us how that came out of those studies.
Yeah, that was the demographic I was studying. I was like, it's because in a study, you have to find like a gap in the literature, what hasn't been studied yet. And people had studied betrayal. And originally I was even studying post-traumatic growth, and we can get into the discoveries too. But there wasn't that lived experience, someone's entire experience before, during, and after, physically, mentally, and emotionally, when those people closest to them lie, cheat, and deceive. And it was interesting because originally I was studying the betrayal of a family member, a partner, or a friend. And I actually had to drop the friend part because as much as friends infuriate us, make us crazy, they don't break us. Of course, we're never broken, bent, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
they don't bring us to our knees, like the family member and the partner.
Mhm.
So the study got a little bit refined as we went along. Yeah, like I said, it was a shock to just have those discoveries, but we're doing something really good with something bad.
And so when it comes to like the relationships, so
Mhm.
parents, you said, and partners, right? Those were the two.
Yeah, well, the way it is with betrayal, the more we trust, the more we depend on
Right.
someone, the deeper
Yes.
the betrayal. So,
Yeah.
take a child who's totally and completely dependent on their parent. That's
Okay.
going to have a different impact than, let's say, your best friend sharing your secret, your coworker taking credit for your idea. Still a betrayal,
Yeah.
not the same level of cleanup
Right.
needed.
Because of the safety and security that is instilled in the people
Exactly.
at work or friends versus family,
Mhm.
close loved ones that are our safety net.
Exactly.
And so the lie, the cheat, and the deceive, are those, how did those come out of being able to figure out what they were actually experiencing in their interactions with their safety net?
How did it? Well, it is, it's the whole idea of when that person, when the ones we trust the most prove untrustworthy, who do we trust, right? When the
There we
ones,
go.
when the people we run to, when other people are causing harm, are the ones causing the harm, where
Yeah.
does that leave us? It absolutely shatters our sense of safety and security.
Yeah.
So that's why betrayal is such a different experience than, some of the other types of traumas. And that was the first discovery, because originally I was studying betrayal and post-traumatic growth. And for those who aren't familiar, post-traumatic growth, I kind of define it as the upside of
Right.
trauma.
Yeah.
Any trauma, right? Death of a loved one, disease, whatever, leaves you with a new awareness, insight, perspective that you didn't have, right?
Mm.
But I had been through death of a loved one, and I had been through disease. And I was like, no, betrayal feels very different. I didn't want to assume. So I asked all my study participants, and I said, if you've been through other traumas besides betrayal, does it feel different for you? Unanimously, they said, oh my gosh, it's so different. And here's why. Because it feels so intentional, we take it so personally. So
Okay.
the entire self is shattered.
Mm.
Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. They're all shattered, and they all have to be rebuilt. So it didn't quite qualify for post-traumatic growth. It was like, yes, you rebuild your life, but you also have to rebuild the self. So I coined a new term, which is now called post-betrayal transformation. That's the
Mm.
complete and total rebuild of your life and yourself after an experience with betrayal. That was the first discovery.
That's amazing. There's so much that I just like, you're sharing so much that I want to grab onto all of it, because oftentimes when we're stuck in these situations and we're trying to figure out what it is that we're experiencing,
Mhm.
there's it's so unique and dynamic, because it's the nature versus nurture, and the actuality of what's happening versus what we're perceiving and what they're perceiving, and all of the variations of the decisions and what's going into the understanding of the overall situation. So back to the lie and the cheat and deceive, out of all of the situations that you were presented, or the stories, as I say, I always attribute it to like a Disney story. Like one of
Mhm.
them might have Cinderella, one might be Snow White, one might be Aladdin, but at the base of all of the stories is that lie, that cheat, or that deception that they were receiving from others.
Mhm.
And so one of the things I do when I'm working with clients is helping them really figure out what is their story, but what's at the base of their story. And so is that part of your journey now with the PBT Institute?
Yeah, well, it's definitely one of the pieces, and that actually, there's so much I want to share. So the
Yeah.
other thing is, when we talk about lying, cheating, and deceiving, that was the second discovery, that it is so profound. Betrayal is such a profound experience that there's actually a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's now known
Okay.
as post-betrayal syndrome. So we've had probably 45,000 people take our post-betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling. A few things about that. The first thing is, we've all been taught and told time heals all wounds. I have the
Yeah.
proof. That's not true.
Yeah.
People, there's a question that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people say things like, my betrayal happened 35 years ago. I'm unwilling to trust. My betrayal happened, 15 years ago. It feels like it happened yesterday. So every couple of months, I actually pull the stats from the quiz. Would that serve if I read some of them?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So now we have men, women, every age, almost every country is represented. Okay. Out of figure 40, 45,000 people, 78% constantly revisit their experience. 81% feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. 94% deal with painful triggers. And those triggers can take you right down. The most common physical symptoms, 71% have low energy, 68% have sleep issues, 63% have extreme fatigue. So you wake up, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
That's how you know your adrenals have crashed.
Right.
47% have weight changes. So maybe you can't hold food down early on, and then later on you use food for comfort.
Yeah.
45% have a digestive issue, anything from Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, constipation, diarrhea. That's not even the mental and emotional. Mentally, 78% are overwhelmed. 70% are walking around in a state of disbelief. 68% are unable to focus. 64% are in shock. 62% can't concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate, you have a gut issue, you're exhausted, and you're supposed to work every day, and you're supposed to raise your kids.
Right. Yeah.
That's not even the emotional ones. Emotionally, 88% have extreme sadness. 83% are very angry. 82% feel hurt. 80% have anxiety. 79% are stressed. A few more. Here's why I wrote the book Trust Again. Ready? 84% have an inability to trust. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 82% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but don't know how. Staggering, right?
It completely amazing. And for me, one of the things that I love to do is call out the elephant in the room, right? Mm-hmm. And so one piece often in these sort of all the things that you listed off, symptoms, people feel they don't have power. They're feeling like they're not in control. And sometimes we make decisions when we feel like we're not in control that are against what we're trying to achieve. And so is that part of your process with helping individuals understand like what is actually what they are responsible for and what the other party is responsible for and how they can't control what the other person is doing?
100%. So a few things with that. Within the PBT Institute, we are there to help the betrayed get to their physical, mental, and emotional best. Now, I will never promise, because sometimes people come in, oh, I just want to be okay with my partner. We don't know what's going to show up. If they do the work, they may likely outgrow that person. They might not be the least bit interested or attracted to them anymore. Yeah. Or that person may absolutely step up their game. We never know what's going to show up. So this is an opportunity, and betrayal lends itself to really creating a new identity. You take all the parts that you love and you leave behind everything that no longer serves. And that's that state of post-betrayal transformation. And it actually, what you said happens very often at one particular stage. Mm-hmm. That was actually the third discovery, that while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many of us do, if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal, I mean coming in with symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome to that whole healed place where you've rebuilt your life and yourself of post-betrayal transformation, we're going to go through 5 now proven predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we even know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every one of those stages. So and we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Healing is predictable.
Yes.
And I'm happy to share the stages if you like.
Absolutely. Yes, please do.
Yeah, sure. So it's what we teach in the Institute. It's what Trust Again, totally mapped out the 5 stages right in here. But I'm going to give you a distilled version. Ready? Yeah. Stage 1 is like before it happens. It's a setup stage. And I saw this with every study participant, me too. If you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, I saw a real heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing, and not really prioritizing the emotional and the spiritual, feeling and being. Right. So it's not to say if you are just busy thinking and doing, you'll be betrayed. It was just a profile that I saw. Anyway, if a table only has 2 legs, easy for the table to topple over. That's us. Mm-hmm. Stage 2, by far the scariest out of all of the stages. And this is shock, D-Day, Discovery Day. And it's the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. Right here, you've ignited the stress response. So we're headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease.
Or learned behavior that has been taught to us by our family and people we've observed. And
Exactly.
the shock phase too is this new awareness that you didn't have before, and that's where that shock kind of comes from.
Yeah, they're absolutely shocked. So we've ignited that stress response. There's a breakdown of the mind. I mean, you cannot process what you just learned. It makes no sense. Chaos, overwhelm. And there's a breakdown of the worldview. The worldview is your mental model, the rules that prevent chaos, that govern you. Don't go there, trust this person. This is how life works.
Or as I like to say, blind beliefs that we've made. Like, why is it inappropriate to not to talk to the person or to talk to the person next to you in a public bathroom stall? Like, who says that that's inappropriate, right? These blind beliefs that we make all around us.
But we all follow it, right?
Yeah.
But it's really true. So every rule that you've known has been shattered. The bottom is bottomed out and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. So it's terrifying, right? But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You'd grab hold of anything to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Who can I trust? Where do I go? How do I feed my kids? Here's the trap though. Stage 3, by far, hands down, is the most common place to get stuck. And
I was going to say the hardest one, because the survival instincts are, especially if you have a trauma background, you've been trained into surviving things in a certain way. And so that usually those survival instincts are counterproductive. So when you get to this phase, it's not only rewriting all of your identity and your relationship dynamic and everything else, it's rewriting your subconscious mind and your emotional brain.
And that's hard to do. So it's easier to stay stuck, right? So once we've figured out how to survive, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where we just came from, we think it's good. And because we don't know there's a stage 4 or stage 5, transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. But because we don't know that, we start planting roots here. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. 4 things start to happen. The first thing is you get all those small self benefits. You get to be right. You get your story. You get someone to blame. You get a target for your anger. You get sympathy from everybody you tell your story to. Feels very comfortable, And so we plant deeper roots. We're not supposed to, but we don't know because we're there and longer than we should be. Now the mind's doing things like, well, maybe you deserved it. Maybe you're not all that great. Maybe this, maybe that. So you plant deeper roots and then think about it. Like energy attracts like energy. These are the thoughts that you're thinking. This is who you think you are. So now you're attracting people and circumstances and relationships towards you to confirm, yep, this is where you belong. The misery loves company crowd. They come around now too. It gets worse, but I'll get you out of here because it feels so bad, but we don't know there's a stage 4 or stage 5. Right here, we resign ourselves. We're like, this stinks, but I don't know there's anywhere else to go. So we start numbing, avoiding, distracting. So right here is where we start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, whatever it is. And think about it, to numb, it's to numb, avoid, and distract ourselves. So we do it for a day, a week, a month now to habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. And I can honestly see someone 20 years out and say that emotional eating you're doing, that drinking you're doing, that numbing in front of the TV, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they look at me like I'm crazy. 20 years ago. But do you see, all they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. That makes sense?
It totally does. And anything in excess, if we're doing something in excess, it's like, what are we avoiding? What are we trying to numb with the TV, the excessive eating, not even eating, exercising, excessive focus on health and weight, or all of those, anything in excess that is doing it out of pressure is a result of something that we're struggling with that is stuck inside.
Exactly. I mean, and I noticed out of the thousands of people we see within, the Institute or wherever I am, and they, knowing the stages, and I saw so many people kept getting stuck in stage 3. So from hardened to healed, like this is just for stage 3. Like it was so bad, they needed their own book. So stage 3, I'm coming for you.
We love you, people. We love you. Like we're here to help.
I'm coming for you, stage 3. Anyway, if you're willing to let go of those small self benefits, everything you get from it, grieve, mourn the loss, a bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo this experience, but I can control what I do with it. And when you've made that decision, you start turning down the stress response. So you're not healing just yet, but you just stopped the massive damage you were causing in stages 2 and stage 3. What's also happening is, think about it. If you were to move, you don't take everything with you. You don't take the things that don't represent who you want to be once you're in this new space. And what I found was, if your friends weren't there for you, they're not coming. You don't take them with you. Right here's where you've outgrown them. So people say to me all the time, what the heck? I've had these friends 10, 20, 30 years. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. If they don't rise, they don't come.
Yes.
So it's really common to see around this stage.
And a lot of the time when I'm trying to explain this to clients to help them really understand, it's, if your house burns down, you're not going to build it exactly how you had it with the exact colors and all of the exact furniture, right? So that stage 3 where 3 into 4 where the house has burnt down and now you've got the base of it, the foundation, hopefully it's being built a little bit stronger, and now you can build the home of your dreams. And sometimes building the home of your dreams, there's a little bit of missing what you had before, but knowing that what you thought you had versus now what you get to have is two very different important pieces.
Well, 100%. And, I did 2 TEDx talks, and the second one, do you have post-betrayal syndrome? I talk about a house and the difference between resilience and transformation. And I just, it's the same concept, but a little bit differently, where I talk about, resilience is kind of restoring, bringing back, let's say you need a new roof, you get a roof, or you need a new boiler, you get a boiler. That's resilience, right? But trauma and transformation is, a tornado levels the house.
Yes.
It's, your boiler's not going to fix it.
Nope.
Or a new roof. But here's the thing, you have every right to stand there at the lot where your house once stood and say, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. You'd be right. Call your friends over, have them look, isn't this the most terrible thing you've ever seen? They'd all agree, and you don't have to do anything. But if you do choose to build something new, why would you build the same thing? There's nothing there, right? Why not give it everything the old house didn't have? That's the opportunity.
So amazing.
Yeah. So then when you're in this mental place of stage 4, making it cozy, making it home, you move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. Body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. We didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. We were surviving. Now we do. The mind starts to heal. You're making new rules, new boundaries based on the road you just traveled. And we have a new worldview based on what we see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of the table, in the beginning, it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're so solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
Amazing. And so for me, I'm like, okay, this is where my work starts, like the assertiveness therapy and really teaching people how to go after what they want and not be afraid to fear of rejection, fear of whatever it is, or even when you're being criticized or manipulated, and how to stand up against that and still get your needs met. Is that a lot of what you do when you're working with clients?
Well, yeah, because, there's throughout the stages, that's when it's the right time to implement certain things.
Yeah.
When they're fresh in trauma, that's kind of not the time we choose. They have to be a little bit further along. But once they see sort of the light at the end of the tunnel there, once they've, they left stage 3, they're moving into 4 and 5. I mean, for me, that's where it gets really fun because now they're ready for that new level of health, that new, opportunity that they never would have had access to had that not happened, that new relationship, and that's when they blow their own minds by who they become.
It's so fascinating.
And that's just so fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a prime example, a divorced dad who had lots of issues with relationships, couldn't figure out what the problem was. Now is in a situation where met 100% the ideal partner, and it's thriving in the relationship because of the transformation and being able to let go of the house that burnt down and building the house that he wants to build. It's so incredible to see that. So for you, when it comes to clients and how people find you, how does that all work for your programs?
Yeah, the best thing, just take the Healed or Hardened quiz. They just find that at healedorhardenedquiz.com. It'll let them know exactly what stage they're in. And then, and then they're going to be confronted with, okay, now you're in that stage 3. What do you want to do about it? You have every right to stay there, but life is waiting for you when when you're willing to let that go. So that I would definitely recommend either the post-betrayal syndrome quiz, they could find that on my site, or healedorhardenedquiz.com. Just get started so you have this sense of where you are. and then, we'll help you from there.
Yeah, when you're ready to take the action, you know where to go and how to get the help that you need, and make sure that's one of the big things I love to talk about too, is making sure you're finding the right helper that's going to get you to where you want to go. And sometimes where we want to go isn't necessarily where we should go. So being able to have the right helper to really guide us down that journey in a not traumatic, comfortable way that's not triggering of our old stuff, right? Obviously, we're still going to get triggered, but the helper it can create more challenge for you than good. So I'm super excited to be sharing all of your knowledge. It's a wealth of knowledge. 30 years, that is an incredible amount of time, and to see where how much you've been able to accomplish in that time. I significantly appreciate you sharing your wisdom with our listeners.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Is there anything last that you'd like to share?
I would say this: rebuilding is always a choice, always, whether you rebuild yourself and move on. I mean, that's what I do with my family. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you rebuild something from the ground up, brand spanking new, with the person who hurt you. That's what I did with my husband. Not long ago, as two totally different people. We married each other again, new rings, new vows, new dress, and our 4 kids as our bridal party. So I would really just want everybody to know, you've been through the worst of it. You owe it to yourself to rebuild this version of you that never would have had the opportunity to show up if you didn't have the experience, and do something good with something bad. Then it's trauma well served.
Yes. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing.